Westfall is bleeding, torn by storms and broken by famine. A land left to rot in its own dust. From the empty farms to the deep mines, a new war is rising. Murlocs takes the coast. Gnolls are grouping. Harvest machines hunt the living. But this is just a mask. Beyond the chaos, a ghost is gathering an army, fueled by propaganda and hungry for revenge. Westfall was once a symbol of stability. Its farms supported an entire kingdom, but now the land has fallen into quiet ruin. Refugees wander the countryside, crops fail beneath relentless wind, and lawlessness spreads where authority once stood. Into this fractured province arrives Lieutenant Horatio Lane, not as a commander, but as an investigator. His task begins with a murder. At the abandoned Furlbrow farm, the bodies of the homesteaders lie among overturned belongings and disturbed soil. There are no witnesses, no clear motive, only the growing suspicion that the crime is tied to Westfall's wider collapse. Horatio treats the scene as the opening move in a larger case. Rather than chasing suspects immediately, he begins with the people who know the land the best. Across the fields near Jensenstedt, clusters of homeless farmers and laborers have formed makeshift camps. You move among them, gathering rumors and fragments of testimony. Some speak of bandits, others of gnolls. Many simply speak of hunger. With the trail uncertain, Horatio orders 2 possible leads investigated. Riverpork gnolls have grown unusually aggressive, raiding farms and roaming freely along the roads. At the same time, Murlocs press inland from the coast, threatening supply routes and isolated settlements. Both groups must be confronted, not only to secure the region, but to determine whether they are connected to the killings. The results, they're inconclusive. The gnolls carry crude weapons and stolen goods, but nothing that explains the murders. The Murlocs behave like opportunistic scavengers rather than organized killers. With the investigation stalling, Horatio turns to a more personal solution. He sends word to seek out an old informant, a drifter known as Two-Shoot Lou. Lou lives among the displaced on the edges of the farmland, keeping a careful distance from both guards and criminals. He has no interest in becoming part of an official investigation. Trouble in Westfall has a way of consuming those who get too close to it. Yet, he agrees to help. Not out of loyalty to Stormwind, nor out of any desire for justice, but because he owes Lieutenant Horatio Lane favors from the past. Debts that have never quite been settled. Reluctantly, Lou offers what little guidance he can. He has heard of suspicious activity in the nearby Jangalode mine. Meetings held in the deeper tunnels. Voices that do not belong to kobolds or laborers. If answers are to be found, someone must go inside and listen. The mine itself reflects the wider decay of Westfall. Kobolds infest the upper passages, clutching stolen candles and disrupting what little economic life remains in the region. Before any covert observation can take place, their numbers must be reduced and candles reclaimed. Small but practical steps towards restoring stability. Deeper within the mine, a wooden crate provides the only safe hiding place. From inside its narrow confines, the investigation takes a decisive turn. A meeting unfolds between 2 figures who speak not like scattered bandits, but like agents of a larger plan. An ogre mage, Kloptok, stands before a cloaked individual whose authority is unmistakable. The conversation is tense. Kloptok is reprimanded for focusing on petty extortion and small gains while greater ambitions are already underway. The cloaked figure offers him a simple choice: serve the common cause or be eliminated as a liability. Kloptok submits. When the report from the mine is delivered, Two-Shoot Lou refuses to hear the details. He has already involved himself more than he ever intended. In Westfall, knowledge of the wrong people can be fatal, and he makes it clear that his debt to Horatio is now repaid. Still, he offers one final lead. Behind a nearby farmhouse, a small group of bandits has been meeting in secret. They keep their voices low and avoid the main roads, behaving less like common thieves and more like men awaiting instructions. From concealment, their conversation can't be overheard. They speak nervously of the Furlbrow murders, warning one another to stay hidden as the investigation spreads across the countryside. They mention orders from figures above them, leaders they themselves have probably never seen. Once their words have revealed what they know, observation gives way to action. The bandits are confronted and slain, preventing them from carrying warnings back to whatever organization commands them. With the bandits behind the farmhouse eliminated, the farmland grows quiet once more. Then, the silence is shattered. Gunshots ring out across the fields. Two-Shoot staggers and collapses before anyone can react. There are no visible attacker, only the lingering echoes of the shots and the sudden realization of what just happened. Lou had warned that knowing too much in Westfall could be deadly. Now his words prove tragically true. His death is swift, precise, and unmistakably intentional. Someone is watching the investigation unfold and removing anyone who gets too close to the truth. With Two-Shoot dead, and the investigation suddenly more dangerous than before, the search for answers shifts towards those still trying to endure life in Westfall. You see, not every farm has been abandoned. At the Saldine homestead, a fragile sense of normalcy remains. Fields are still tended, livestock still roams the fences, but even here, survival has become a daily struggle. Mechanical harvest watchers, machines once built to ease the burden of farm labor, now move erratically through the crops. Without proper maintenance or oversight, they have become destructive, trampling fields and threatening what little harvest remains. They must be destroyed before they reduce the farm's livelihood. Yet, the greater threat is not machinery, it's hunger. Food supplies across Westfall have dwindled to the point where even simple meals requires effort. The Saldines gather what ingredients they can: tough cuts of boar meat, stringy buzzard flesh, and hardy vegetables pulled from stubborn soil. Together, these scraps are turned into a modest stew. Not a luxury, but a necessity. With the food prepared and the immediate needs of the farm met, attention returns to the growing investigation. At Sentinel Hill, Lieutenant Horatio Lane seeks out Marshal Grant Stoutmantle. The two men speak at the entrance to the tower, while soldiers and refugees gather nearby. Horatio explains what have been uncovered so far: the murder at the Furlbrow farm, the scattered signs of organization among bandits, and the increasing sense that Westfall's troubles are no longer isolated incidents. He asks for the full support of the Westfall Brigade. Ryan listens in silence before agreeing. The crime cannot be ignored, and the province cannot be stabilized through half measures. Patrols will be strengthened, investigations will continue. Only after the discussion concludes does another detail become noticeable. Off to the side, restrained in heavy chains beneath armed guard, a captured Worgen awaits in grim silence. Taken after attacking livestock in the surrounding fields. For now, he remains just one more problem in a land already struggling under way too many. With support from the Westfall Brigade secured, the effort to stabilize the province begins in small but meaningful ways. The stew prepared at the Saldine farm is brought to the refugee camps near Sentinel Hill. Families gather around makeshift fires, workers too exhausted to travel further accept what little relief is offered. For a brief moment, the act of sharing food restores a sense of community that Westfall has nearly lost. But the fragile calm does not last. Howls echo across the plains as riverboat gnolls surge toward the hill in a sudden and coordinated attack. The refugees scatter while guards form defensive lines, pushing back the assault before it can reach the heart of the settlement. In the aftermath, written orders recovered from the fallen attackers suggest that the raid was not a random act of hunger or desperation. Someone had directed them. Suspicion turns toward the chained Worgen who had been held under guard during the earlier meeting. Brought forward for questioning, he resists at first, snarling, struggling, refusing to speak. Yet, as pressure mounts and the chaos around Sentinel Hill grows harder to ignore, fragments of information begin to emerge. His involvement appears tied to the spreading unrest, but not as its architect. He is another piece of a larger pattern, one that continues to hint at coordination behind the violence engulfing Westfall. Captain Danovin names a riverport gnoll called Django Spothide. Unlike the roaming packs seen before, Spothide has been organizing raids with clear intent, striking patrols and refugee routes at the worst possible moments. The hunt leads into the gnoll camps scattered across the plains. There, the leader is confronted and killed. While the investigation into the Furlbrow murders continues across the farms and roads of Westfall, other struggles unfold at the edges of the province. Far to the west, where the land meets the Great Sea, the coastline tells its own story of disaster. Shipwrecks lie scattered along the beaches, broken reminders of storms and shifting tides unleashed by the cataclysm. Among the wreckage, Murlocs have grown bold, dragging supplies into the surf and attacking anyone who wanders too close. At the Westfall lighthouse, a silent guardian keeps watch. Captain Grayson, bound to the shore in death, refuses to abandon his duty. Though the keeper's family has already been lost to Murloc raids, the flame must remain lit. Without it, more ships would be doomed to crash upon the rocks. To protect the coastline, the Murloc's presence must be pushed back. Their hunters and mystics are driven from the Rexstone sands, and the leader, the vicious old Murgai, is finally hunted down in the shallows. Yet the sea is not the only force threatening the lighthouse. To the northeast, the earth itself has split open. Within the raging chasm, unstable elemental energies have given rise to a living ooze that seeps through shattered stone. This strange substance becomes fuel for the lighthouse flame, an improvised defense against a world that no longer follows its rules. While Westfall's fields struggled with hunger and crime, its shores fight quite a battle against nature herself. Along the same desolate shoreline, the past refuses to stay buried. Among the wreckage and tide-worn debris, fragments of an old treasure map are uncovered. Faded markings left behind by Captain Sanders, a smuggler who once used Westfall's forgotten coast as a hiding place. Following the clues leads across shifting sands and weathered dunes where small lockboxes lie buried beneath driftwood and stone. Each discovery reveals another piece of the trail, guiding the search toward a final catch, hidden from both Storm and Sailor. At last, the treasure is found. Coins stalled by salt, trinkets from distant ports, and remnants of a life lived beyond the reach of law rest inside. At Sentinel Hill, Marshal Grant Stoutmantle directs attention toward an SI-7 operative working in the area. Agent Keenan has been tracking a goblin named Helix Gearbreaker for several days. She has followed him across the farmland and confirmed that he is now inside the tower near Alexton Farmstead. She believes Helix is not acting alone, he is meeting with someone inside. Because of that, she does not want the tower attacked, she wants to know who Helix is working with. Instead, she provides a potion that allows entry without being detected and sends you inside to observe what's happening. At the top of the tower, Helix Gearbreaker is found speaking with a cloaked figure. Helix reports that the gnoll attacks have failed. The cloaked figure responds that the gnolls have already served their purpose. As a distraction, they're no longer important. The conversation then shifts to a larger plan. They refer to an upcoming event as the Dawning. Helix attempts to bring up an admiral, but the cloaked figure interrupts him and says it'll be handled later. Before leaving, the cloaked figure gives Helix instructions. He is told to gather people for a meeting. The location is Moonbrook, and the meeting is to take place soon. Following the discovery at the tower, the investigation moves to Moonbrook. At the edge of the town, Captain Albert of Westfall Brigade has already been monitoring the area. He reports that Defias agents have been moving through the area, distributing propaganda among the homeless population. Inside the town, this propaganda is easy to find. Pamphlets, journals, and local printings all carry the same message, that Stormwind has abandoned Westfall and those left behind must take matters into their own hands. While moving through Moonbrook, another detail becomes clear. Several individuals are wearing red bandanas. When collected, the material matches what was found at the Furlbrow crime scene. Captain Albert identifies it immediately as a symbol of the Defias Brotherhood. Shortly after, the meeting mentioned in the tower begins. People gather in the center of Moonbrook. Workers, farmers, and displaced civilians assemble in large numbers. The cloaked figure seen with Helix steps forward and addresses the crowd. She speaks directly about Westfall's condition and Stormwind's failure to respond. The message matches the propaganda found throughout the town. The crowd listens and responds. After the rally, the investigation shifts towards identifying the origin of the movement. At the nearby camp, Furlbrow the Wise proposes using a ritual to examine past events connected to the Defias. The ritual leads into the Deadmines. There, the final moments of Edwin Van Cleef are witnessed. The vision shows his death, but also reveals something that was not known before. A young girl is present. She is the daughter of Van Cleef. The findings are brought back to Sentinel Hill. At this point, the investigation has connected the events in Westfall to the original Defias Brotherhood, but the identity of the current leader is still not confirmed. Before any further action can be taken, the situation changes. Hope Saldine steps forward. She drops her disguise and identifies herself as Vanessa Van Cleef. She confirms that he has been operating in Westfall throughout the investigation and that she has been responsible for organizing the movement. Horatio confronts her directly. When questioned about the Furlbrow murder, she states that they recognized her and that she had no choice but to eliminate them. At the same time, the captured Worgen is brought forward. Vanessa releases him and returns his equipment. He is Admiral Ripsnall and resumes his position within the Defias. With her identity established and her forces in place, Vanessa gives the order to begin. The attack on Sentinel Hill starts immediately. Defias forces move into the area, setting fire to the buildings and overwhelming the Westfall Brigade. The settlement is set ablaze within minutes. After the attack, the remaining forces regroup. Sentinel Hill is heavily damaged, and the Defias are no longer operating in secret. The presence, leadership, and intent have all been confirmed. The situation is reported in the castle in Stormwind. The scale of the threat is now clear. The Defias Brotherhood has been rebuilt, and the conflict on Westfall is no longer contained within the province. To handle Vanessa Van Cleef, we take the fight to Deadmines. Inside, the people encountered across Westfall begin to appear again. Globtuck, the ogre mage from the Jangalord mine, Helix Gearbreaker, no longer hiding in the tower, but working to defend the mine. The Foe Reaper 5000, one of the harvest machines turned into a great weapon. And then, of course, Admiral Ripsnall, the Worgen once held in chains at Sentinel Hill. After Ripsnall is defeated, the path continues toward the final section of the mine. We find Captain Cookie surrounded by supplies taken from the coast. On Cookie's dead body, Lieutenant Horatio Lane arrives. He explains that Vanessa Van Cleef is no longer in the mine. With nothing else to follow, he leaves. After Horatio leaves, a note is found on the corpse of Cookie. Before there's time to act on it, Vanessa appears.
I've been waiting a long time for this, you know.
She has been there the entire time. She releases a poison, and the fight suddenly changes. The earlier encounters return one by one. Globtuck.
Poor Globtuck. When his powers manifested, his own ogre mound was the first to burn. Deep within his soul, the one thing he feared most of all was himself.
Helix Gearbreaker.
Most rogues prefer to cloak themselves in the shadows, but not Helix. You never know what skitters in the darkness.
The Foe Reaper.
Can you imagine the life of a machine? A simple spark can mean the difference between life and death.
Admiral Ripsnall.
Ripsnarl wasn't always a bloodthirsty savage. Once, he even had a family. He was called James Harrington, a tragedy in 3 parts. If I'm going to die, I'm taking you all with me.
When the poison fades, the situation shifts again. The ship is burning and parts of the mine begins to collapse. The only option is to move forward. As the flames consume the Deadmines and the dust settles over the hills of Moonbrook, a hollow silence returns to the land. The investigation that began with a single murder at a lonely farmstead has unmasked a ghost. Vanessa Van Cleef is defeated, her vengeance halted, and her father's shadow finally put to rest. But for the people of Westfall, there is no victory parade. The fires at Sentinel Hill are still smoldering, the fields remain barren, the refugees are still hungry. Lieutenant Horatio Lane may have solved the crime, but the rot of the province runs deeper than any one conspiracy. Westfall remains a fractured land, a place where the heroes are gone, the villains are martyrs, and the only thing that grows in the soil is the memory of what was lost. The investigation is over, but the struggle for Westfall has only just begun.